Freedom family, freedom marchers, freedom fighters. How y'all doing this evening, this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you at in the fucking world over there? Alrighty then. Why are you fucking breaking like that, bro? Like, come on, man. Come on now, dog. Anyway, what's good, y'all? Back with another live stream. Y'all know I'm on my way back to this damn, little apartment for my work, but out here in Georgia, and yeah, I'm on the last leg. I told y'all I might come back. I was going to talk about something else, but when I found this out, I was like, you know what? Let me touch on this, which is kind of like along the lines of what I talked about earlier today. Make sure you guys stay hydrated. You know what I mean? But I think I'm gonna give y'all, give people a minute to get up in here. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, just got through looking over the, going over the Jake Paul Tommy Fury fight. I didn't watch it, of course, but good on Tommy Fury for coming out on top of that one. I mean, apparently he took Jake Paul to school, as well he should have, even though he only has 8 professional fights. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like he was a seasoned boxer, right? He's still a novice. So Jake Paul, he found out what real boxing is like. You know what I mean? But anyway, how y'all doing this evening? Make sure y'all hit that like button so that notifications, how they do. They'll fuck with y'all with the notifications. Like, they won't give you the notifications. So, we got to make sure that we hitting that like button, y'all. But yeah, so apparently, after some investigating and shit like that, they want to come out and say, well, it's likely that the not the hokey pokey, but this thing, right, the super cold, the bat flu, is likely that it originated from a lab leak in that place over there on the other side of the country, where they speak a different language, right? It's likely that it came from a leak, and that makes total sense, right? That makes total sense. But they're saying that it wasn't likely due to a weaponization program, right? Like a germ warfare program. Like, apparently they were probably doing some gain of function research to determine, how can we handle this if this crossed over to human beings? Like I said earlier about the bird flu, right? Gain of function research in regards to that. Hopefully YouTube doesn't bust my balls about this. I'll post a link in the description where you guys can go check out the article and look at it for yourself, or you can do the research for yourself. Do what you got to do. But yeah, it makes total sense that this shit came from a lab, right? If it is what they say it is, they're trying to say that this novel thingy, the novel bat flu, the novel super cold, probably came from, or likely came from, a lab leak. And if they're saying it in those terms, to me, the way that our government works, the way they do with, the whole thing with subterfuge and, all the obfuscation, I can't talk about it right now. I don't know what's wrong with me. It pretty much confirms it for me. But here's the thing, though. Was it an accidental lab leak? And did it really come from that place over there where they speak that language that I don't even want to say that word. I don't even want to say the W word, the town from which it originated. My question is, was it a deliberate leak, Was it an accidental leak? Was it or was it not due to weaponization research? Was it or was it not due to gain of function research, because these people want to manipulate the genes of horrible diseases to see how humans could possibly fight it if it ever mutated and ever evolved to be able to infect humans? You know what I'm saying? So, in essence, if it came from a lab leak, that means that it wasn't that, okay, if it originated from a lab leak, that means it wasn't an issue before in human beings. But only after it leaked from a lab did it become an issue for human beings. So does it even really matter? Does it matter if it was due to weaponization research or gain of function research? Does it matter? What really matters? In my mind, if you ask me, what matters is that they're doing this shit in the first place, regardless of what they're saying they're doing it for. It doesn't matter what they say they're doing it for. The fact is that they're doing it, right? The fact is that they're doing it. They did it with the bird flu, right? In the early 2010s. They did it apparently with this thing, the bat flu. And now it causes big old stir. It caused all these problems, caused this all this hysteria, mass fear, pushing the fear campaign, something that I resisted from the very beginning. I resisted it from the very beginning because I was like, yo, it's very convenient that they're doing this right now. And when you connect all the dots together, how can you really ever trust these people? How can you really ever trust these people to tell you the truth, to tell you what's really going on, to tell you what's going on behind the curtains, to tell you that, that this came from a lab instead of a freaking bat in a wet shop, a wet market, whatever the hell you want to call it? How would they even know that? How would they even know it came from a wet market? Oh, what? Patient Zero told you, well, I was at a wet market one day, which happens to be only so far from a lab. And did that Patient Zero work in that lab? I don't know. We don't have that information. Well, if you went to the wet market and they're slaughtering animals right in front of you, then it had to be from the wet market. It couldn't be that you were in the lab and then you went to the wet market having already been infected. But hey, we're going to roll with this wet market nonsense. We're going to roll with the wet market narrative because we don't want people to know that we're fucking with superbugs in a lab, right? We don't want people to know that we're fucking with superbugs in a lab. But because of all the information that has to flow, right? Because make no bones about it, these people push information that they want you to know, and they suppress information they don't want you to know. But they can't completely stop the information. They can't stop the flow of information. It works both ways. It works for them and it works against them, right? It works for them and it works against them. So that means what? That means even though they're putting out the information that they want us to know, they're pushing it so hard and suppressing the information they don't want you to know, you can still get the information. You can still get the information. You just got to go look for it. You got to do your own research. You got to go in the Wayback Machine. You can't just go to one article. You can't go to one research paper. You have to go to this research paper, that research paper. You got to get meta-analysis. You got to go, and then you got to go with common sense. You got to use discernment and common sense and say, hey, I believe this over this. You know what I mean? You choose what you believe. You choose what you believe. And guess what also? Here's something that also should give you a sense of that should also enhance your discernment. Make it actually not enhance your discernment, make it easier to make a determination using discernment. when they push a certain narrative, when they push something that they say is the truth so hard that they try to come after people who give any deviating information, then that tells me that the information that they're pushing so hard, suppressing alternative information in favor of this information that they're pushing so hard, I am going to say automatically, right? Automatically, until I get further information that confirms it, I'm going to go against that. In my mind, I'm going to say, okay, it's probably not this. It's probably not what they're pushing. So I'm going to look into other information. I'm going to look at who's risking what they have to put the information out there, right? Who's at the most risk? Not the people that control the flow of information to a degree, but the people that put their livelihoods on the line, their licenses on the line. I'm talking about doctors, researchers, and these other individuals that put their reputations on the line, that go against, right? That goes against the mainstream narrative to their peril to a degree. I'm going to say, hey, this person has a lot more credibility in my mind, but I'm not just going to outright believe what they're saying. I'm still going to do my own research, even though I'm not a doctor, even though I'm not a professor, even though I'm not, I'm not any of those things. I'm not a chemist. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a virologist. I'm not an immunologist. I'm not any of those things. But what I am is a researcher. And I know how to read. If I don't understand a term in the research paper, I can go look up that term, find out what it means. I can go to a medical dictionary. I can do this, I can do that. I can say, hey, what the fuck does this mean? I can go look at that. Because even though there are people that are more adept at learning scientific things, mathematical things, mechanical things, all this other shit, even though there are people more inclined for that, does not mean that somebody that chose not to go down that path to become a doctor, to become a scientist, that doesn't mean that they can't understand the information if they do enough digging and enough research. Just like with the face flags. I got a strike on my channel for putting out information, factual information based on research that was done by credible medical sources that showed that people, 70%, or I forgot what the exact percentage was. I think it was somewhere around 70-some%. 70-something of individuals who always wore a mask were hospitalized, right? Over 70%, I think it was 71% of people who always wore a face flag were hospitalized for that thing. And 4% of people who never wore a face flag never got hospitalized for that condition. And I read the research. I read it. I understood what it said because I'm a human being and I can read English. You see, people like to throw the appeal to expert fallacy at you, right? Or appeal to the expert, appeal to the professional, appeal to the authority, right? They like to throw that at you. Oh, well, we can only go with what the doctor says because he's a doctor and only he can say something. No, that's not how it works, right? That's not how it works. That's not how this thing works. That's not how proving an argument, disproving an argument, backing your argument up with solid resources and all this. It doesn't, you don't have to be a doctor to be able to talk about scientific shit. You don't have to be a doctor. You just know how to do the research and interpret the research, right? Interpret and know what kind of research is the best kind of research to go with, because not all research is created equal. Not all research is double blind and peer review, right? Not all research is that, right? Some research just comes out and it's not fully published yet, and they're just giving abstracts and things like that. And sometimes, yeah, you can go a little bit with what the abstract and all that is saying, but is it really a credible source until it is peer reviewed, until there is a meta-analysis done, until there's a large sample? A double-blind control trial research type of shit, you know what I'm saying, where there's control and you got controlled and not controlled, and you got double blind, where you can ensure that the data you receive from it is going to be the least adulterated, not manipulated data, not data from research where the researchers have fucking conflicts of interest. If the pharmaceutical industry or the hokey pokey industry is paying for research to be done to outside researchers, to outside scientists and all this other shit, and obviously they're getting paid, right? How can you really trust that? Just like a lot of the individuals from these medical organizations, right? All these medical organizations that govern drugs and treatment, right? Like the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and other organizations in Europe and in other countries, where the pharmaceutical industry is paying these people. They get a lot of their money from the pharmaceutical industry. In the United States, like 60-something% or 40-something%, something like that. Well, how is that? How can, you know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. In other countries, it's almost like 80%, 84%. The pharmaceutical industry should not be giving, listen, the medical organizations that govern shit, govern how drugs are administered and treatment is administered. These organizations, these government bodies, right, should not be taking any money from the pharmaceutical industry. It just should not be happening. How can we lend any credibility to these people if we understand and know that they're getting money from the people that would benefit the most from the public being sick or using this drug, using that drug? Like, how can we even accept that? How can we accept any information and any guidance from an organization and from a government that would shield Big Pharma from any liability from the products that they put out? It is the only special interest group that is shielded from all liability that stems from any injury or anything from their products. They try to tell you that the gun industry is like that. They try to tell you that the gun industry is the only industry that is exempt from liability. That's not true. The gun industry is only shielded from liability when someone uses their products to deliberately harm others with malice. How can the gun industry be responsible for someone who picks up their gun and goes out and deliberately shoots a whole bunch of people? No, they'd be liable if someone picks up their firearm, right, and it's not quality built, right? Somehow this particular firearm got through quality control when it should not have, and then when you go to fire it, the slide goes back and comes off of the, you know what I'm talking about, the track, and hits you in the face. And we find out that is due to negligence from the manufacturer. You can go ahead and sue that gun manufacturer. But guess what? If a big pharma company out a product that causes injuries and deaths, not because of the negligence of the doctor, not because the doctor gave somebody too much of it or too little. No, they gave them the exact dose that was told to be given, and it still causes injuries and death. Well, then that company should be held liable. Everything being the way it was supposed to be, right? The perfect candidate for this type of treatment. You know, healthy, you know, this and that was going on, you know, vitals checked out, all this other shit. They were given this product, and the product injured or killed them. Well, you goddamn right that company should be held liable. If you just get into the stream, I don't know why the energy department, U.S. Department of Energy, is doing anything about this, but apparently they're saying that that the bat flu might have indeed originated from a lab leak. So yeah, a lab leak in that country, you know, that starts with a C, ends with an A. So there's that, if you guys missed that. But anyway, but I mean, doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that make sense? All this culminated in what has been the most, maybe one of the most tyrannical 3 years that we have experienced in the United States. After, medical tyranny. I'll say medical tyranny. The most blatant and detrimental medical tyranny that has ever occurred. And what are all the things that we're finding out? What have we found out about the superbug that I told you guys about years ago? Right? That they finally came out and said, well, and even Leanna Wynn, or whatever her name is, that health correspondent on that news organization, right? The doctor chick, Dr. Leanna Wynn, she finally came out and said, hey, listen, the superbug, it wasn't doing all that y'all was thinking. A lot of the hospitalizations and deaths were due to other things. They just so happened to have the super cold. But I mean, this was already information that was out there. This was already public information. And I showed you guys, I went to the CDC, I showed you guys the chart that broke down the deaths that they attributed to the super cold. And how the super cold, actually, of all the deaths that were attributed to the super cold, only 6% could actually be directly tied, 6%, And at that point in time, I think there was like, I don't remember exactly, maybe 100,000 or so deaths that were attributed to the super cold. But when you went to the CDC website, that is available to everybody, by the way, they had a chart and they had information before and after the chart. Right? The information was there, yo. %6. Black Spring Autumn, is that you? I can see your comments this time. But 6%. 6%. This lab leaked super cold that what they're saying is likely a lab leak. U.S. Department of Energy. I don't know what Department of Energy got to do with that, but hey. You see that, and sometimes they do little silly shit like that. So it's harder to find. Like, you would expect that to be under something like the Department of Health, the CDC, or some, like, you know, some other, but the Department of Energy, why are we getting this information from that? Why do they have, what? But this is how they do it, man. You gotta go around. You gotta go around and get around all the obstacles, right? But 6%, I told you guys, 6%, and it said it on the CDC website. You just have to do little calculations yourself. You have to do your own calculations. But how many of the people that had these deaths had 4 or more comorbidities? 4 or more comorbidities. 2 or more comorbidities. The 6% of those deaths could be tied to the super cold. Right? They finally came out and told us. And then even when they were hooping and hollering about the children in the hospitals. When they were talking about, oh, there's way too many people, we can't get people in the hospital, children in hospitals. And what did I tell y'all? I said, when you dig deeper, right? Because they were trying to say in Texas that, oh, Texas, you know, they're having a bunch of children that are being hospitalized for the super cold. But they can't get seen because all these other super cold people, oh, they're taking up all the hospital beds because they refuse to get the pokey. Well, if you dig a little deeper, most of these kids weren't actually in there for the super cold. They were in there for, I forgot what that respiratory illness was that children often get during that time of year. It just happens to children. That's what most of it was. It wasn't the super cold. And then if you dug deeper than that, you find out that most of those people that were hospitalized, taking up all them hospital beds, they're trying to shit on Florida and shit on Texas for. The super cold test, all those positive tests, most of them were incidental. They were in there for completely different reasons that had nothing to do with the super cold hospitalizing them. They were there, it was incidental. Because everybody had to get tested that went into the hospital. If you were hospitalized, you had to get tested. But you might have been in there for a gunshot wound. Or you might have been in there for a broken leg. You might have been in there for breast cancer. You might have been in there for heart disease that you had for 20 years already. You might have been in there for a blocked artery. You might have been in there because of the pokey poke itself. You might have been in there for the pokey poke itself. But what did they call it? The pandemic of the unpoked. The pandemic of the non-GMO. Oh, they went at you hard, didn't they? They went at us real hard. Oh, man. this non-GMO people, oh, they're killing us. Oh, this like it was complete and utter bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit. Had family members calling other people out for not being GMO. Like, but they just believe. They just, hey, this is my government said this happened, so there. Guess what? It happened. My government said that it was the plandemic of the un-GMO, and that, by golly, that's what it is. Like, what? I mean, this would have been the only disease for which they had a poke. The only disease for which they had a poke, where you get poked to protect other people. But you get poked to protect other people. But if someone else isn't poked, then you could get, you're not protected from the unpoked, but you're protecting who? Is a poked person protecting the other poked person? Another poked person? Who is that poked person protecting? If person A is poked and person B is poked, are they protecting each other from the poke? Or would it cancel it out? What's going on here? Would they get double the protection? Who is the poke people protecting in this instance? If a poke person is protecting another poke person, then that poke person is protecting that poke person. Right? So, I'm confused. As long as you're poked, then I don't have to get poked, right? Because you're protecting me. Hey, you're already poked, so therefore you're protecting me. Thanks a lot. So let's run through this. I was kind of thinking, oh shit, they didn't flag the nigga, but no, they didn't. So let's get this. I want to get this ironed out right now. Person A gets poked to protect somebody else from getting the super cold. But if if somebody else is poked, do they need your protection? And if you are protecting somebody while poked, then does the person that's not poked, do they then receive protection from the poked person? And thus does not need to get poked? So, how they tried to do this is the same thing they did with the face flag. Oh, well, you're not wearing a face flag for yourself. You're wearing a face flag to protect other people from you. Right? But the face flag doesn't actually offer protection for the individual wearing it. What? No, that's how they got, that's how they justified forcing you to wear face flags. Because what if I don't want the protection? What if I don't care? Like, what if I'm like, okay, well, I'll take my chances. Well, you can't do that because you can give somebody else who has a face flag the super cold. Like, how stupid do they think we are? These face flags are supposed to be protective, but they're telling you it only works one way. But if you're in a hospital and you're sick, they might give you a face flag, right? If you're not even if you're sick with the super cold, you might be sick with something else. You're going to wear a face flag to kind of help from spreading it. But then other individuals are also going to wear a face flag so that they don't contract it. like doctors. Doctors are, you're trying to heal somebody, you can't just be like, nah, that motherfucker's sick, so fuck him. No, you just put on your face flag. Well, you're not sick. So, it's not like you're going to spread it, right? Unless you don't have I'm fucking confused how they tried to spin this whole thing to make it. That's how they got people. That's how they guilted people to wear face flags. Because if somebody was like, yeah, you know what, I ain't worried about it, I'm healthy, and I like breathing when I'm outside, I like breathing fresh air, and if I'm in a building, I don't want to wear this thing. I want to get as much air as possible, and I'm going to allow my body to do what it needs to do if I contract this thing. And guess what? If I don't fucking make it, hey, if I succumb to the disease, I succumb to the disease. I chose for myself not to wear this face flag. But how did they guilt you into it? They convinced you that you had to wear it to stop someone else getting sick, even if they're wearing one. You see what I'm saying? If they're wearing one, it's still not going to work for them because you had to be wearing one too. Well, that's the same thing they tried to say with the Pope. If you're poked, it's not going to work unless somebody else is poked around you. It doesn't make fucking sense, right? The poke is supposed to protect the individual that got poked. It's not supposed to protect somebody else. That's not what it's designed for. It doesn't work like that. That's like me. I have a headache, so I'm gonna take a Tylenol, right? But in order for the Tylenol to work, you got to take a Tylenol too when you're around me. Oh, you can't come around me without taking a Tylenol, yo. I got a headache. You see what I'm saying? You're gonna compound my headache if you come around me unless you take this Tylenol. Well, that motherfucker taking the Tylenol is not going to affect your headache. Or it's like saying it's stupid, right? But somehow they convince some people that you have to get this treatment to protect other people from getting this disease. They convinced us of that. Not me. They convinced a lot of people that they had to do this in order to save other people's lives. I'm sorry, I'm not responsible for your life. I'm not responsible for your life. I'm not responsible for getting treatment. It's not my responsibility to get treatment in order to save you. If you want the ultimate protection from this disease, then you take this drug. You get the treatment to protect yourself. You wear the face flag to protect yourself. That's how it works. You might want to wear a face flag. Now, if I'm sick, if I'm sick and I'm symptomatic, okay, I'll wear a face flag. Not because you want me to, but because I don't want to spread it. So I'm going to wear a face flag so that I don't transmit the disease to other people. Okay, I can get with that. I can roll with that. I can get with that program. But when you try to tell me that asymptomatic people or people who aren't sick must wear a face flag to protect other people from getting sick, that's where you lose me. Because that's not how it works. That's not even how it works in germ theory. I don't know where they got this shit from. So, anyway, that's enough of my rant and raving. I got about 16 minutes before I get to the apartment, and I can get everything upstairs and make my tea, my nighttime tea, my sleepy tea, my sleepy sheet tea, which is good, by the way. That stuff, it's good. It's good. So I get sleepy sheet tea from Blackout Coffee, and I mix it with this elderberry syrup. Well, it's an elderberry and herb tonic, and then I'll put some Maline in there, and a couple other things. Let that steep, and then I drink that before I go to bed. And I also get the red Korean ginseng in there as well. So it just gives me the ultimate immune boost. So yeah, and it gives me it helps me get some great sleep. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm already sleepy enough as it is. Like, I'm sleepy enough. I'm not too sleepy to drive, but I'm sleepy enough, and it's gonna feel good when I go to bed, when I go to sleep. So I'm gonna get off of here and ruminate for the last leg of my trip. Call my wife, let her know I'm about to make it safe, and then I'll holler at y'all tomorrow, possibly, man. So yeah, just to recap, U.S. Department of Energy says that due to some FBI investigation, the super cold bug likely derived from a lab leak. So I'll look into that a little bit more, and I'll get you guys up to date on that. All right, much love, like, share, subscribe, and thank you for sharing this out. Black Spring Autumn, I caught that. I appreciate it, and much love, like, share, subscribe, and we're gonna keep marching forward toward freedom. Peace.